Good evening. I'd like to call the Parks and Rec Commission for the City of Post Falls meeting for May 25th, 2021 to order. Just a reminder to silence your cell phones if you're in the audience here, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we'll go ahead with the roll call of commission members.
Hale.
Present.
Cornwell.
Present.
Zibble-Wolf. Duzick.
Present.
Noyes. Franek. Snyder.
Present.
Okay. And we usually don't have any amendments to the agenda, but just need to make sure there's no changes. So.
Do not.
Okay. And starting tonight, we've got the ceremonies, announcements, and appointments and presentations. So first of all, wanted to welcome, we've been short members for a little bit, but added a few recently, and the most recent's Angela Snyder. So I actually know her, so I'm glad that she applied and was appointed by the city council. So, and I don't know if you want to take a second and just introduce yourself. So
I'm just excited to be here. I worked for the city in Utah for about 13 years in the planning and building department and also finance, and I'm just looking forward to serving here in Post Falls. Nice. Welcome.
Great.
Welcome.
Next, we have the election of officers. It's actually under new business. So that, I believe, is it for the ceremonies and announcements, unless we have anything else. So we don't usually have declaration of conflict, but we just have that on there in case there is any. I don't see any. So we'll move on to the consent calendar, which would be, we had a meeting 2 months ago now. We did not have an April meeting, so we'd be looking for a motion for the March 23rd meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve March 23rd, 2021.
Second.
Duzick.
Aye.
Cornwell.
Aye.
Hale.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Okay, that's always the fastest part, the first half. I don't know if we have any citizen issues. Hopefully we had people sign up if needed. And if not, we do have old business, a few items. So I believe the dog park design is the first item up.
Okay.
Robbie.
Well, Robbie gets set up. I'm going to kind of set the stage and I'll
Okay.
paint that pretty picture. But we've had two top specialty park items on our unmet needs list over the last several years. One of those was for splash pads, which we have gone through that process, added 3. Those are now in place, and we've been working on dog parks at the same time, but we've looked at a lot of different sites and options, but either it was more than we could afford, we couldn't work out a deal, or we couldn't work fast enough for when it sold or went to other parties or other uses. But that need and that desire from the public hadn't changed. So we've continued. And I wanted to say that when we do a dog park, it's more than just putting up a fence. I mean, that's the easy part, but truly you look at the safety, wear and tear aesthetics, the social and active space for both the dogs and the owners. Design goals limited some of the spaces we could look at. We were looking at a little bit larger space, about 3 acres, so we could have the proper parking and meet some of those needs. But it was a few months ago, it seems like years now, that you folks directed us to look at our existing parks. We'd looked at Singing Hills, and we looked at the property on Horsehaven and
Cecil.
the other C word. And it was decided that budgetarily and other issues, that one was probably further down the road. We'll look at it at some point becoming another dog park. One on a specialty park just never is enough because it gets overrun. So we need to spread it out, make it easy to access. So Singing Hills Park was looked at. That's what Robbie's going to bring forward to you. And we're hoping tonight to kind of narrow down that design, let you understand the design process, where we're at, get feedback so we can bring it forward for the public comment process. And that we would like to have this summer, so we could start construction in the fall or winter.
All right, thanks, Dave. Good evening, members of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Robbie Quinn, Parks Planner, and as Dave mentioned, I'm kind of going to go through a little bit of the process and the designs for the Singing Hills Dog Park concepts. So just a little bit about Singing Hills. It's about 7.5 acres, and you can see in this lower image here, centrally located within the city. Some of the major roads touches on Idaho Street here. The northern is Pole Line, Singing Hills, and then to the south is 16th. And so kind of the major entrances to the site, I know it's kind of hard to see, but the first one off of Idaho is Teton, and that would be likely the primary entrance to the site. And then there's also an access off Yellowstone from Syringa, kind of the back way, and then a couple other routes just generally through the neighborhood there. And Singing Hills is one of our more unique parks because it's kind of, I would classify it in two categories. One is an open space trail network that runs through some of the neighborhood and housing. And again, this is kind of hard to see, but outlined in blue here, it runs through and ties into Idaho Street, and then again, coming south, some of these houses back up to another trail network. And then the other category would just be kind of a general open field, playground, more traditional park setting up in this area. And so the open space and trails is about 4.8 acres, and the playground open field is about 2.7 acres. And so I don't know if you want to talk about a little bit about kind of different areas we looked at for the dog park.
Yeah, as Robbie said, the park is a little unique. A little history is this park was donated to the city by the developer, so it's the first actual park that was given to the city in that sense. And a lot of it was land that had to do with the gas pipeline, so it could not be built on, some of the codes. So it's made it very difficult. It's also made it an underutilized park. So we looked at the one upper blue area that you see there. Could we not impact the field space, but look at that space in there? So we did walk through it. The reality is with the trail corridor in there, all the connections, some of it taking you across from neighborhood to neighborhood and stuff, anything we put in there that cut off that use would impact both neighborhoods quite heavily. So we discounted it. We do know we need to come back and probably adjust some of the pathways in the future, really look at how to make a few more spaces viable and usable, but more of low quiet nodes, and just wasn't suitable for a dog park.
And so with that, we kind of settled on just the main traditional type park setting, the open field and the playground area. And so just a couple benefits of that. As I mentioned, it's generally just a big open field, relatively flat, not quite up to a recreation standpoint as far as games for like soccer and that sort of thing, but it was used for practicing. As I mentioned, there's a existing playground here with a small shelter. Quite a bit of parking. There's a more internal parking as well as on-street parking here. Existing multi-use paths on the south and the east ends, and a few mature trees on the perimeter of the site. And so that's kind of what led us to using this area for the dog park. And one thing I want to draw your attention to is just the road layout here. As you'll notice on my next slide, some of that I'll mention changes, but right now it's kind of essentially a cul-de-sac, but with an outlet. And so that's one thing, when we were talking with engineering and fire, they were open to us adjusting that, since it doesn't need to be a cul-de-sac since there's an outlet coming through.
If I could point out where Robbie showed you where the two parking lots at is actually, it is a street. So it just makes it awkward.
Right. And so while we're talking about that, I'll just start there. So what we did essentially was cut off the cul-de-sac and plan to extend the parking all the way to the playground. And this allows us to create more parking towards the playground, as well as implement ADA parking right next to the playground for easier access to the playground itself. And so with that, jumping into the design. So in general, we wanted, for both concepts, we want to have a small dog and a large dog area within the dog park for a couple reasons. One, it allows for people who aren't comfortable with different sized dogs. If they have a smaller dog, they don't always want to be in with a larger dog. So it gives them that flexibility, as well as for a maintenance standpoint, if for some reason, we need to work on one area, we can close it down, and then all the dogs can go into the other area or whatnot. If the lawn needs to be repaired or something of that nature, that gives us some flexibility from the maintenance standpoint. And so in this first design, the fence line is about right here, if you can follow my cursor, and then ties down to the entrance right here. So this would be the small dog area, about 0.3 acres, and that is closer to the playground. Again, for user conflict, we wanted to have the smaller dogs closer to the kids. Obviously, they're not close, but if they're gonna be closer, that's what we would want there. And then the remaining site, 1.2 acres, would be for the larger dogs. And so with the entrance, again, another ADA parking stall down here. Users would enter off this main parking area into the two bullpens, so there'd be a bullpen for each area, and then start with some concrete sidewalks in the beginning with ADA bench pads and seating in both areas, as well as shelters in each area. And both those shelters are kind of close together for, again, dog parks are social parks, so if we can kind of keep people together, that helps. And then the other thing I want to kind of bring to your attention is this, what we're calling a hardened entrance. So the dark green on these designs would be synthetic turf. It doesn't have to be synthetic, it could be another material. But what synthetic allows us to do is essentially expand the wear pattern. When people come in and dogs come into these dog parks, there's a 3-foot gate that everyone has to come in and out of, and so that creates a wear pattern. And typically you'll see if they're grass parks, it's muddy for the first 30 feet or so, just because that's where everyone has to walk. And if we can extend this wear pattern essentially to this whole area, again, it reduces the maintenance, it keeps the park cleaner, dogs aren't getting as muddy. It's an overall just kind of win-win for the park and for the park users. Another aspect would be circulation path throughout. So on the large dog park, as I mentioned, the beginning portion would be concrete, and then that would transition to gravel paths, more organic, less cost, and they could be kind of just flowing through the site. We looked at extending those towards the perimeter, but again, with some of the residents nearby, we pulled it in a little bit, and this allowed us the opportunity to create some berming and vegetation on all the perimeter edges, so for buffering and screening for the neighbors. And then that still left us with a pretty sizable area in the middle here for the dogs to run free. We could have some agility type equipment in there if wanted. And so those are kind of the main aspects to the dog park itself. And then additionally, with with this project, we would look at improving the playground. And so there'd be a new playground, all new equipment, and with that, new sidewalks and curbing. We'd keep the existing shelter, upgrade it if necessary, and then look at adding a portable restroom near the playground, and then also probably one near the dog park entrance. And so, transitioning to my next concept, many of the features are the same, but the main difference is kind of where the entrance is located. So with this option, it moves the dog park entrance kind of further south. And so with just the way the site's laid out and with the parking, it's almost set up as two parking lots. And so doing this could potentially reduce some user conflicts with playground users and dog park users. So again, 88 parking to the south, park entrance, similar features, the two bullpens, the hardened entrance, two shelters, and the concrete gravel paths. But with this one, the small dog park gets a little larger, so the fence line is bumped out over here now. So the small dog would be about a half acre, and the large dog would be an acre. And again, that could be more beneficial just if like say if we need to shut one down or the other, it's a little they're a little closer in size. And so those are kind of the main concepts that we had. Again, the features in general are similar. It's just kind of layouts and sizing is more of what we're looking to gain some of your feedback and thoughts on. So these are the two options kind of side by side. And with that, I'd open it up. Any questions, thoughts, suggestions?
I like option 2, keeping them separated from the park entrance and the dog park entrance.
Robbie, looking at the view, so there's houses to the north and then there are any to the east?
Yes, so there are, I believe, 2 lots here and then also 2 on this side.
So
But then there's another little path that runs right through here.
in your opinion, moving the entrance to the south would probably alleviate at least help a little bit the houses to the north possibly?
I don't really see as either one being a hindrance to
Just
the.
because of the space and,
Yeah, exactly. And there's not, again, there's quite a bit of plantings that'll be in the berming and everything. And this one too, I believe the house actually sits up here. This is just a shop, so they're also set back a little ways.
One of the things we did is some of the earlier designs that you guys don't get to see is we had pushed the pathways up along the fence lines, trying to maximize the space that people could walk. But as we worked through it, we pulled it back. One of the things that we've been looking at is how to limit impact upon, the adjoining properties, even the existing uses, everything else. What makes this site here probably more viable is the fact you've got 2 of the sides are onto a roadway. Another portion is protected by the playground, so it does limit it quite a bit, but we've pulled back the pathways and we're adding more vegetation.
and I'm not familiar with this. Are there hours or is this basically, can someone access this 24 hours a day?
Most likely, that's one of the things we'd look at operation, but we're probably looking at a sunrise to sunset type operation. The
Similar
reason
to
for
our-
that is becomes enforceable through the courts because those are actually published every day in the paper. So you have a set there. If you go to a time and say everything's at 8, when you get into the winter and it's dark, you just come up with your issues.
Gotcha.
And it really becomes more of, you deal with it when there's a problem.
Okay. And then my only other question is, I'm pretty good on sizing in my head with the acreage, but maybe comparison to like McEwen downtown,
Yeah.
their parks, and they have 2 separate areas too?
So McEwen, I don't recall if they have two separate dog.
I don't know if they classify large and small, but
Yeah.
I believe there's two separated
So
areas.
I actually pulled kind of the local dog parks. I'll just kind of go through them for your reference. So Hayden has a dog park, Crawford Park, 1.7 acres. Cherry Hill Dog Park, 0.6 acres. McEwen, 0.3. Central Bark, 0.5. Their newest one along the Atlas Park there on the river is 0.8. And then there's a few in Spokane. Probably the State Line one is closest to this size. It's a little bigger, but it's 3.2. And then the largest one in the area is the Spokanimal Dog Park, kind of deep into Spokane. That's about 8 acres. So it's in our close proximity, this would be the largest dog park.
Any other questions for Robbie or comments or?
I like the second one as well.
I do too. I like the meandering feel of the pathways, and it looks like you've incorporated that in the small dog park as well.
Right.
Option 2, which is
Yeah.
nice.
I like option 2 as well. And for anyone who's watching or curious, this is just a very preliminary thing. You guys will come back and
Yeah,
Yes,
the process at this point, we'll take that option 2, we'll probably get a couple tweaks into it, minor ones, maybe where we put the agility portion of it, how we have the open space, even some of it on pathways, we'll look at that. And then we will be doing, our standard process would be to put out a public meeting out on the site for the neighborhood to come in and comment and look. We take that feedback. And the comments are that how to make it fit in better. There's things I'm sure we forgot or missed. There's always concerns, so we can address those, but it'll become a dog park. So we also set the parameters of what's going to happen there. The other part of that then is we do, at one of your meetings here, we'll have also public comment time. We'll have that a little bit more refined, and that's a chance for the whole community to respond back. But we like to always meet in the neighborhood when we're putting in a neighborhood park, sports complex, skate park, whatever, dog park. We sit with those when there's something like that and get some feedback so we can meet all of the neighbors and get that feedback. We usually find a few things can be tweaked here or there, and we try to find that win-win. And that'll be this summer, so probably in June we'll have a on-site meeting, and then you're looking at July, probably coming back to the Park and Rec Commission.
And we need a formal motion just for you guys to proceed action-wise with
Option 2.
option
yeah.
2. Yeah. So if we have any more questions for Robbie or Dave, or if not, if we want to move forward, we'll entertain a motion and have them move forward.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the dog park preliminary, option 2.
Second it.
Okay.
Snyder?
Yes.
Hale?
Aye.
Cornwell?
Aye.
Duzick?
Aye.
And then, did you have anything else on that going
Yeah,
forward?
Dave kind of covered it, but just kind of the next steps. We're engaging in an engineering firm to give us a proposal on some of the engineering work. Obviously, if we're kind of manipulating the road and the parking, we need some of that done, and then as well as making sure everything meets ADA. So we're in the process of going through that right now. And then, as Dave mentioned, once we get that going, we'll schedule some community outreach and then hopefully finalize some of the design documents later this summer, early fall, and then hopefully be able to maybe start moving some dirt sometime this fall.
Yeah. And when I told you about June, Robbie's right. Engineering will tell us a little bit about on some of that. So if we end up having to push it out to July, then we'd be coming back probably in September for your meeting. So the input will be on the dog park, but we'll also get some input on even the playground and what people want to see there and kind of what we can fit in on that budget.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Landings update.
Yeah, so we got a couple updates here just on some of the construction that's been going on. I gave you guys an update last meeting, so just kind of following up, see progress that's been made. So the landings kicked off about 5 weeks ago. The first priority of that project was getting the seawall rebuilt, obviously because of the low water. They needed to get that done before it came up. So these are just a few pictures of the first couple rows going in. And then the finished product, they finished it about 2 weeks ago. And then this lower one here is actually the crane pad form. So these walls are about 18 inches tall. It's about 50 by 50, so pretty big pad. Utilities, nothing too exciting here. Each one, you can't really see much in these, but each one of these are some of the stormwater drainage. So there's some dry wells. This is the path kind of coming into the site. And then they started grading the amphitheater. So before, it's hard to see. So the fence line up on this hill here, they started grading that, shaping the amphitheater, heading down. So this area down here would basically be the plaza space. And then this is looking on top of the amphitheater, so you can see the grade essentially sloping down. With some of the modifications we made to the design, there's only 4 rows of seating, and so the rest of it will just slope back up to our property line, so that's what you see here. And then this is just another view from the other side. So nothing too exciting happening yet. A lot of the utilities and underground work, they started putting in the water main line yesterday, so working through it, but everything seems to be going well and on schedule. Any questions?
Oh.
All right, and then one more at Falls Park. So this one we're a little closer, almost finished. As I mentioned, there's a few areas that we've been working on. One of them being the bridge, and so that has been completed. The new decking has been installed and stained, and we've installed a new metal rail this time. So this is similar to what was installed at the Black Bay Depot along the back patio, and will also be installed on the landings seawall. So everything is kind of starting to get tied together a little bit. And then another view from the pond. Turned out really nice. Next area was the shelter. So if you recall on one of my other pictures, the slab was cracked pretty significantly and the shelter was starting to settle quite a bit. And so this is we had new post fabricated, reset the post, and just formed it up for concrete. Concrete was poured 2 days ago. And so this is the finished slab here. Still have to put the metal back on, but that's pretty close. And next up is the playground area. So playground equipment has all been installed. We have a new slide, a swing here in the background, some butterfly steppers, they're called, kind of kids can step from one to another, and then a couple tea cup spinners. And the main attraction, the global motion here. Hopefully this will help people deal with the removal of the merry-go-round. So those are the main components to the playground. Some of the new sidewalks, so we upgraded all the sidewalks in this area here. This will be a bench pad looking into the playground. And then the new playground ADA entrance right here, and then another bench pad at the entrance. And then the main park ramp coming into the site, this was a project that Avista actually completed. And so this is an in-progress image. So they actually fabricated this railing on site. So this is just a shot of them doing that. And the finished product, again, same style railing as the bridge. And the interpretive sign that they remounted. And then the last bit were new benches. So we're in the process of installing roughly 20 new benches throughout the site. And these are just a few of the new locations, and some along paths and some along the existing boardwalks and outlooks. And that's it. So we have sod coming on Thursday, and that's about our last piece, and we should be wrapped up. We'll probably fence that off for maybe a week or two just to give it a chance to root in, and then the site should be back open.
So the pathway going into the park was in pretty bad condition. It was angled on two sides, one going down into the park and one going off towards the head gate. So that was a major undertaking, and we truly appreciate what Avista did. It had to do with that earthen dam in there, and they took it all out, reinforced it, brought in, looks like more rock, and really compacted it. So the first time it was built, it just been poured on because that had been a mandate that they had to reinforce what was considered an earthen dam, even though it only goes to the head gate, and it's not going to go anywhere, the head gate being the old Corbin irrigation ditch. I mean, that thing doesn't rise or anything. It's locked in place. So, but they did a great job, and it makes such a difference seeing a straight path instead of something going like that. So we're excited.
Great. Okay, so I think that's it for old business. New business, we're a few months behind, but we need to elect a chair and vice chair, and they'll serve through next February when we should have elections. So we need one or more nomination for each position, and the person has to be willing to serve. And do they have to be present?
They have to agree to.
So if
Sure,
they're
so yeah.
if they're okay, that's what I wasn't sure. So, so we need to have at least one nomination for chair, one for vice chair, and so we'll open the floor. But I would like to nominate Jason for chairman. He's been on the commission for a while. Him and Danny both, after I came on, and if he's willing to serve. So,
Sure, yeah.
okay. And do we have any other nominations for chairman?
Jason was my choice also.
Okay. Do you second? Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and close the nominations, and we'll have a vote. It's just a roll call, so
Okay, Juzick,
Aye.
Hale,
aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Cornwell,
Abstain?
Vote for yourself, man. And then we have vice chair position, and they would chair the meetings if the chair is not present. So we would need one or more nominations for that position as well. I'll nominate Gina. She's been on for a while, so.
I'll second.
Are you willing to serve?
Yes.
Okay,
I'll second.
second.
Cornwell,
Well, you have to see if there's second.
So we have nomination and second.
Second.
Right, but it
And then
also-
we
You
have
have
any
any-
other nominations from anyone else or for anyone else? So we'll close that. So now we'll vote.
Cornwell,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Juzick,
Aye.
Hale.
Aye.
That's confidence.
Easy enough.
Aye.
Okay, painless. So that's great. Not really anything for staff report?
Just so you know, impact fees were approved by city council, and they put it, the effective date for 60 days. 30 days was as soon as they could do. There was some recommendation to go to 90 days, but they did a compromise into the 60, so we're excited. That means a lot to the department, since it's been quite a while since we've been underfunded there, so that's a good thing. There's just a lot of projects, a lot of activity going on. I know we're seeing a lot of rentals for the picnic shelters and other buildings. It's become very, very busy. And then, of course, on the construction side, they're doing a lot of different projects, and construction isn't just what you see up there at Falls Park and stuff, but it's even working on irrigation systems through the park. And we've had a couple storm events come in, and I can tell you that from every division, whether it's cemetery, park maintenance, urban forestry, recreation, or park construction, they're all extremely busy. There's a lot of people out there using the parks. Usage is way up. So that's a good thing.
Perfect. Okay,
Yeah,
that's it.
that's it.
Pretty easy.
Pretty easy.
Commission comments, sometimes we have some for the public, so if anyone wants to share anything. Okay, and as usual, no executive session, so we will adjourn this meeting for tonight.